I don't think I've ever seen a shoebox come back from Amazon in brand new condition. Electronics, perfumes, anything that's fragile.
Here's what's crazy. Even if the shoebox is damaged, well, you're like, I can't sell this in new condition. You could get a full reimbursement, and then you're like, well, now I have a used shoe. Now what do I do? That's actually not what an Amazon seller should be thinking about.
One, two, three.
Welcome to the Smartest Amazon Seller Podcast. You know what? To be a smart Amazon seller, you have to be a profitable Amazon seller. We're going to talk about something that can hit your bottom line. I'm very my business on Amazon, our profitability would dwindle based off of just 1,000 knives and cuts, just like little different ways. And sometimes I hear stories about people sharing inventory across businesses on one account and or inventory on consignment. And what they don't realize is there's all these small ways that a sale isn't a sale. You have returns that come back in sellable condition, some that come back in unsellable condition. Sometimes Amazon reimburses you. Sometimes Amazon returns, there's all these small little fees that hurt you. And so I have with me on a guest, we're going to talk about one specific way that when people tell me their profitability, you better be including returns or speaking a different language. I have Will Abrams from Axiom Prep, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Scott. Really happy to be here.
Okay. I'm going to do a good job of I've already done a little bit of just getting people revved up. Yeah. Let's twist the knife. At my peak of selling on Amazon, I think we sold 10,000 units a day. And wow. That would mean about 200 returns a day. And returns became a very painful thing where you get this inventory back. You're like, I think we could sell this and just send it right back in. If it's not in sellable condition, just all the problems. And it was actually a big headache as you chase the last 1% profit margin of your business. That's what it can represent. And I left with a message to myself. You do not want to be dealing with this last piece of inventory. You just have to have an answer. It would almost be better if you just wrote it off than spend hours and hours and hours on it. And employees spend their time on it when they should be working on what grows your revenue. Maybe that's simplistic, and every seller is in a different spot, but I got a little bit of passion because I got a little bit of pain around this. So Will has for years helped here, runs a returns service. And we're going to dispel the different types of return services. Yep. I know Will knows them pretty well. Mm-hmm. And but first, give us a bit about your background. Let's we brought you on to educate, but man, my pain is still real.
Yeah. I mean, we could swap horror stories about returns for days. We get a lot of those, and I'd love to kind of give an overview of my background. I got into this space, I think, like a lot of people do, which is I was an Amazon seller myself. I was in college, I was working full time, and I was selling on Amazon on the side, and funny enough, everything was going well, but I still had returns piling up in my little tiny 1-bedroom apartment. And it was very clear to me early on, especially being so busy, that the more time I could spend sourcing, the better, the more money my business made. And so that was my background as an Amazon seller, and that kind of dovetailed into how I got into this business. I actually have an aunt who sells on Amazon as well. She's located in Israel. So for her, there was no option with these returns. They were stacking up in a garage at a relative's house, and she had no way of recouping money on these returns. So she said, hey, Will, could you help me resell these returns? And it started off just on eBay. Mm-hmm. She sent them to me, and I listed them on eBay.
And we know a lot of returns, they can come back in sellable condition.
Yeah.
And sometimes Amazon doesn't think they're a sellable condition, but they are.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
so, the biggest value you can do is just ship stuff right back in.
Absolutely. Yep.
Tell us what else can you do with
Yeah.
what about the used or the other options?
Of course. Yeah. So, like I said, eBay is where we started, but not where we ended up. Amazon is going to be your best bet for any of this inventory. If it's new, which, like you said, a lot of the times it is. Maybe Amazon just thought it was used. Maybe it got mislabeled on the way in by a prep center. Whatever the case may be, your best bet is going to be to ship that new product back into FBA. And then, secondly, if a product is used but you can still sell it on Amazon, I'm not sure everyone knows this, but you can list used products on Amazon. So that's not every listing and every product, obviously, but again, that's going to be your second choice: is can we list this product FBM in used condition?
You can FBA in used condition, right?
You can, but either way, Amazon. And again, that's going to come down to our clients making that decision as to specifically which way is going to recoup them the most money. But so those are your two best bets.
Some businesses will they will sell. Some returns businesses will like focus on liquidation and like they'll kind of sell it for you in other capacities, maybe even on their own seller account. And there's definitely a conflict there, but maybe they don't sell it on Amazon. Maybe they sell on eBay on consignment. Tell us about that, like how you see that playing out.
Yeah, I don't see it playing out incredibly well. Well, I think obviously, like you said, there's a bit of a conflict there. I think with most consignment services that we see, it tends to just really be a liquidation service. They're trying to move that product as quickly as possible. And, you're going to get pennies on the dollar for your Amazon products. So we don't see a very high revenue recovery rate from those services. We just don't. And that it's very limiting if you're selling higher ticket items. So if you're selling shoes, electronics, high fashion, any tools, anything that's maybe over $50, it tends to be much more expensive than a service that is going to charge you per unit for those different services that we provide. And then on the other end of that spectrum, if you're selling, inexpensive products, it's a rounding error. A consignment-based service that's reselling your $5 products is going to have to charge you 95%.
I actually really want to jump into another thing that you've talked about because I think we got to. This is something that I worked on in 2017 was like reimbursements. I built an auditing tool. Should I have kept that around? Yeah, I probably should have. Probably would have made a lot of money. But but we did exit it successfully for a few seven figures. I'm fine. I'm not upset with what happened. But I've seen businesses kill it here. But there was one reimbursement type that is the hardest to get. And that is your removals. You actually I successfully showed that we removed a product. We took a picture of it, told Amazon, you guys blew it. This was new. Now it's not new or something like that. And they reimbursed us.
Yep.
And I actually, one of the main reasons I agreed to I was like, okay, Will, let's chat about this is because, you work on this.
Yep.
You will tell us about that reimbursement type where the returns and of course successes you're finding, lack of success or whatever.
This is a huge part of our business is, like you said, filing those reimbursements. If something comes back as overstock, which means it's in new sellable condition, and yet by the time it gets to you, the UPS driver threw it out of the back of the truck or stepped on it or whatever the case may be, now your product is not new anymore. That's a reimbursement you are absolutely entitled to. Like you said, it can be difficult. There's some things needed to file that reimbursement successfully. Like what we've found is 6 different pictures from different angles tends to be our best bet, with a picture of the LPN and the picture of the packing slip and a picture of the shipping label. We have gotten every single response from Amazon customer service possible as to why they don't want to give us this reimbursement. And so we take all those pictures on the front end. And we see very, very significant reimbursements on those types of reimbursements. Especially with things like shoes. I don't think I've ever seen a shoe box come back from Amazon in brand new condition. Electronics, perfumes, anything that's fragile.
Here's what's crazy. Even if the shoebox is damaged, well, you're like, I can't sell this in new condition. You can get a full reimbursement. And then you're like, well, now I have a used shoe. Now what do I do? Again,
totally.
that's actually not what an Amazon seller should be thinking about. I'm challenging people that like think they want to do this on their own. I'm like, no, don't get in that loop, that train. Like I've been there. Yep. You're just going to spend more time doing something that you shouldn't be doing from a profitability standpoint. So enter a service. Now that you have these used shoes and Amazon's already given you the funds, what do you do with these used shoes? Now you can sell them on eBay.
Absolutely. We can sell them on eBay, ship them back into Amazon. That's the reimbursement, like you, I think you're hitting at, has no effect on the resellability of that product. So those are some of the things we do absolutely the best on, is when we can get a reimbursement and then turn around and resell it, because a lot of these products, the product isn't necessarily damaged, but the box is, which, that's not dishonest. If the box is damaged, it can't be sold as exactly new, but there's still a lot of value in that product.
It's just different stages of the value. It's like, I gave you a new product. You don't give me a new one back. Let's talk.
That's it.
And then you're like, okay, now I have a used product. What do I do?
Exactly.
Yep. So, okay, multiple image points. So I actually have a story where like I was working on this. I remember I did this on a Saturday morning. I was like, okay, we think this might be a reimbursement type. I have to answer this question. And I like run over to Office Supply or whatever, Office Max, something like that. I didn't even have a camera on my computer. Like it was pre-COVID, that was optional for a desktop. I bought one because I needed to build out to take some pictures, a program to take these pictures. I'm like, man, I wish I would have chased that idea to completion, because I think there would be more money in sellers' pockets today.
I agree. And it can get quite granular though. You have to go back and forth with Amazon, and they'll say, hey, where's my LPN? And you say, it didn't come back with an LPN. You kind of have to fight for these reimbursements. And that's what we do. And we can get that granular because, like you said, that's our business. We deal with returns and
now
sellers can't.
We maybe could have done this earlier on. I also had an issue with my business in that we sold a lot of inexpensive stuff.
Yeah.
We sold a lot of one-off stuff.
Yep.
Our average selling price was like $14. And now with the increase of returns, it used to be 15 or 50 cents or whatever. Now it's like $1.50 on up. That really hurts the viability of like returns for like inexpensive stuff.
Absolutely.
Now, what's the sweet spot where you feel like this works for you?
Yeah. So it depends a little bit on, I guess, the demand for these products resold. As a good example, there's a very high demand for shoes on a secondary market, but for something like food, for example, people don't really tend to pull up eBay or Amazon and shop for used food. So that's an important disclaimer first, but we tend to, our threshold is about $35. So based on our fees, our clients can remove just about anything that sells for $35 or more new on Amazon, and they're going to turn a profit on that resale. And that's a very important distinction, because I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're even doing it yourself. If you're selling a product that's, $10 new on Amazon and it comes back unsellable, that should be disposed of or liquidated at Amazon. You're just not going to be able to turn a profit trying to resell those products. So that's a very important part of our service. I think just about dealing with returns as a whole is, for some products, you're best just washing your hands of it. But for your higher ticket products, there's absolutely a lot of value to be recovered there.
That's good to know, because I think a lot of people actually might be in the under 35. And, be very careful on trying to build out
absolutely.
Be very careful on building your own reverse logistics.
Yeah. 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 I agree with you there.
Do you think just like the standard liquidation is probably the best for that?
I do. And I think for most of our clients, there's maybe 50% of their catalog that, or maybe sometimes higher, that falls below that threshold. But there's also 20 to 30% of their catalog that falls over that threshold. So
I'd say if you have a low SKU count, or you know your products really well, and say it sells for $20, 15, $20, and like, you know it, you're like, okay, I know most of these are actually going to be, I could return this in new condition. There's some corner cases, but yeah.
And so a lot of our clients will actually go through they'll usually pay a virtual assistant to go through their specific removals, like their stranded and unfulfillable inventory, and make those decisions. Because like I said, especially for the reseller, there tends to be a lot of variance in terms of average sale price. It sounds like maybe for your business there wasn't, but a lot of our clients, 70% of their stuff they're liquidating, and then 30% of it they're sending to us. So that's pretty common.
I'm just glad that some of the pain that I felt years ago is still with me. So people can just like hear it,
feel that,
understand that you don't want to be dealing with this. Another thing is, so we talked about like the consignment. We talked about like eBay. You want to be very careful if people like if a return goes back on Amazon, the specific conditions. You got to file those reimbursements. Now also like one thing that impressed me is like, if you have these processes, then you have visibility of the product. Do you take a picture of everything that comes through your door?
We do. We take a picture of everything that comes through our door. And I love that you brought that up. I think that's a bit of a shortfall of a lot of the services that we have seen kind of in this industry is just a lack of visibility on what's actually coming back from Amazon. And that's something I think we excel at. We built our own software. We didn't really find a WMS that could work for exactly what we wanted to do. So yeah, like you said, everything that comes through the door is getting professionally pictured with a picture of that packing slip. So, we find a huge discrepancy in what Amazon is telling you they're sending you and what actually ends up getting to our warehouse. So, and that can be very important when it comes down to, shoes. We see a lot of shoes where one size is a 9.5 and one's a 9, or, electronics where specific things were taken out. We have the time. It's our business to really thoroughly inspect these products. And that is absolutely necessary when you're trying to resell them.
Ooh, you did mention, I'm happy to name them, that like, are there other, like, so we know these reimbursement services like Carbon 6's Seller Investigators, Gatita. Do they ever request the reimbursements for like these returns?
So from what I understand, and we have somewhat of a relationship with Carbon 6, and I'd like to say we played a part in this going onto their website. But anyway, they have a portal. At least I know Carbon 6, not to name them very specifically, Seller Investigators, has a portal in which you can enter that. But that's the issue, is you need pictures of the physical products. So it's very unlike a warehouse lost reimbursement software where you're not having to do that legwork. So they do have a portal or a tab where you can enter those pictures, and it kind of facilitates that process. But obviously, they can't file those reimbursements for you.
Prep services often cost like $1 to $2 per unit. What range are you guys in?
Yeah, so I'll speak in out the door terms. Typically, if you're going to send something to us and it's going to go back into Amazon, it's going to cost you about $3 out the door. That's with an inspection fee and then the ship back into Amazon. And then to create an FBM listing and fulfill that order, you're going to be at about $525 with an inspection. We create those listings and then fulfill those orders. And then it's going to be similar for eBay. And that obviously scales up a bit as you go oversized. But with that comes with 90 days of storage, that detailed inspection, professional photography. We find that at about that 35 threshold, products are reselling profitably.
Cool. Awesome. Well, now everyone's got all the info. I was glad to be able to talk about that reimbursement type. I feel like that's new and interesting, and that people should be aware of it. because you got to claw back everything you can these days, right?
You do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, Will, thank you so much for coming on. And
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I think we're good. I think we hit it really good. Let's wrap up. That's this week's pod. So, everyone listening, we'll catch you on the next one, and hopefully you have a good week. Take care.
1, 2, 3.